Hello and welcome to my studio. I'm Jessie and this is the Knit Up and Dye podcast, episode 35, Never Too Hot to Cast On. Thank you, every one of you who has sent me comments of support this week and just said hi and have subscribed and asked questions. I love you guys. I really appreciate you reaching out to me and thank you. This really is all about you and your questions and your comments just make me better every time. So welcome, hi, and keep coming. I hope you like what you see, and certainly if you don't, let me know and let's make it better. Week in review. It's been a busy week. Every week is busy, isn't it? My sweater remains stalled, but strangely I'm feeling really inspired to work on it. That's not true. I'm feeling really inspired to work on a number of sweaters, and I have it in my head that I'm not going to cast on another sweater until I've completed my sweater. So there's drive happening here. I'm eager to do some new sweater projects, and that means I've got to get that sweater off the needles, so I'm going to make a bigger effort. Really just been too scattered, and when I did have time to knit, it wasn't good focus knit time. And I always seem to run out of time. When I think I'm going to set aside time and work on my sweater, it just doesn't happen. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. We're going to do this. Therefore, because I've been knitting in really small blocks of time, my How to Eat an Elephant blanket has been marching on quite beautifully. And I've made some wonderful progress on this week. I finished this column. Pardon all the ends, it'll be a while before they get woven in. This column I was working on, and I think I've done these 3 here since I spoke to you last. And then I started the next row. So I have this whole section done, this whole top row here. So I got a lot done on this week, and it was just, sometimes I didn't even get to knit a whole square. Sometimes I just picked it up and I got through the color change and I did 4 or 5 rows before I had to set this aside again. And then when I went back to it, oh, a square was already in progress and it was already quick and easy, and I'd finish that and pick up the next one and get halfway through that one. So there was a lot of stop and go on this, but it's happening and I feel good about the progress. I am at 126 squares. 144 squares will be 25% done. And yay. Yay. I'm loving it. I love the colors. I did take a picture of it outside this morning, just thrown over my chaise lounge, and I posted that to Instagram. Certainly go check my thread if you'd like to see a better image of it all, because it's getting really hard to get it all on screen. It is getting big, which is exciting. And it is so hot here. It is so hot here. Yes, I live in the desert and I should be accustomed to heat. What's different? What's different? So the temperature is high today. It's not as high as it normally gets. We're only in about the low 80s. However, we've had rain recently, which isn't really usual, and it is humid. It is humid. And normally we have a dry heat here, so we can tolerate much, much hotter temperatures without feeling oppressed. The humidity is killing me. It's like being back in Maine, but it feels like August in Maine, and it is June in the desert, and whew, it is hot. So I don't know that I'll be working on my blanket this evening unless the temperatures really drop off, because I do have to have it in my lap, and it is heavy and hot in this weather. Otherwise, it's warm and scrumptious. So it's marching on. I did a thing. I got 1 square done this week and turned to my husband and went, "Look, I did a thing." I was very excited because I had a sense of accomplishment that I'd done something, and then I proceeded to do a lot more things. So we're moving along. So my Curiosity scarf, which I knit for my mother, I showed you the end product of that last week. It is blocking right behind the camera right now on my blocking table, and that, with the humidity, it's going to take an extra day or two to block. But theoretically, I'll be able to snip off the ends. I've woven in the ends. I'll just snip them off once the blocking is all done, once it's all dry. And then I'll be shipping that off to my mom. It is a belated Mother's Day gift, but it's beautiful. It's done. I'm excited about it. I did weigh out the remaining yarn that I had left over from the ball. I wanted to see how far I'd gotten, because I tried to use the entire ball of yarn, and I don't believe there was enough to do another row and complete the cast on. Maybe. The scale wouldn't register it. I pulled out my yardstick and I measured it, and I was below 6 yards. Lovely. I used the whole ball as far as I'm concerned. 6 yards left. Granted, some people play yarn chicken better than I do, and they get that right down to 6 inches, which I think I'd have a heart attack. There's this weird phenomenon that happens, and the same thing happens when you're low on gas in your car and when you can see the yarn ball dwindling and you're near the end of the project. You either drive faster to get to the gas station, thereby using more fuel, weirdly enough, or you knit faster. And that one, my husband was laughing at me because I was like, I'm running out of yarn. He's like, why are you knitting faster? I'm like, because I'm running out of yarn. And he was just like, yeah, no, that's not gonna work. So I try to play yarn chicken. I try to use up all the yarn. 6 yards is a close call as far as I'm concerned. I'm happy. So that is done. That is moving along. My Dark Hero socks are also mostly stalled. I did get a few rounds in on them this week. I have still just this little bit of the leg. And again, I'm doing this with one of Shannon Shaw's Supernatural yarns. And this colorway is, I'll pull my tag out, they're screwing with the wrong people. I love it. I love her names. And it's this beautiful, like, Superman dipped in black. I love it. And I'm carrying along at the same time this elastic Madeira thread. It's a very fine elastic thread. I'm carrying it along while I'm knitting these socks for my husband. He likes a tighter elastic around the leg, and so I'm putting them in. And look at this. You can stretch it right out to regular sock width, and when you let go, it snaps right back. I love it. There's a couple of spaces where I can see the yarn, the thread, but when I squish it around a bit, it all seems to blend right in, and then you don't see the elastic anymore. And I will definitely be incorporating more elastic in these in the socks that I knit in the future. I'm liking this. It's easy. You just hold them together and knit as usual. Every once in a while I have to go back into a stitch because I didn't catch both the very, very fine elastic thread and the yarn. But for the most part, carrying them together is very easy. And the result is fantastic. I'm so happy with this. And I play with it constantly. It's not wearing out. It's had my stretch test. And I showed it to him and showed him how stretchy it was. And he was quite thrilled. He's excited to have it just a little tighter on the leg. Part of the problem is the socks I've knit him before were like bed socks or house socks. And generally I use like a worsted weight when I do that. So they're big and sloppy and they stretch out, and he, I think, is afraid that all wool socks work that way. So I'm excited to give him a pair that he can actually wear in a pair of boots that will be more of a daily sock and will fit him properly. So there. I did probably, looking at it now, I probably got a ½ inch done. Not huge progress, it's a sock, but progress nonetheless. So that's going on. Zip that up. The reason that most of my projects have been stalled is because of this project. And I've shown this to you guys before. This is a new design that I'm working on. The pattern is going to be called Addicted to You. That's TWO, to You, because you're using 2 fingering weights and holding them together. And this is a super, super easy beginner project. It always looks harder than it is. It starts with 4 little stitches up here at the beginning, and it grows, and it has these lovely little open work, slightly lacy sawtooth teeth that develop as you go. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to let it go as big as it can, and this is a run it out of yarn project. The idea is that you get to use 2 fingering weights, like I said, that either complement each other, contrast beautifully, or are best friends, and you just go. And the colors mix and mingle and create this lovely fabric. And you could use a stellina with a texture. You could use 2 regular sock yarns. You could use a solid and a speckle. You could do anything, anything. My particular one, I used one that has the little nylon nubs in it with a regular plain Jane kind of, I should not say plain Jane. The yarn is gorgeous, it's gorgeous. But just a regular sock yarn. And it has made this lovely texture that is oatmeal-y and warm. It's all garter stitch. Literally the stitches in this pattern are knit, yarn over, knit 2 together, and bind off. Easy peasy. If you can do those 4 things, you can make this. And it's growing and growing and growing, and it's going to be this big, luscious, throw it around you kind of a wrap thing. How big will it be? Well, that depends entirely on you. It'll be as long as you want it to be. And if you're not happy with what 2 skeins we work together will give you, throw on 2 more skeins. Intermingle. Do whatever you want with it. It's about you. Your knitting should always be about you. I had progress on it this week. So last time I talked to you, I had done the cast on, and I had worked to this progress marker right here, and then I had done some more work, and I had I'd gone about this much further last week. This was last week's progress, was from there to there. This week I put in this beautiful progress keeper. Isn't that lovely? That is one of Knitting with Attitude, Donna. Donna gave me this lovely progress marker. I love it, I love it. I've been staring at it all week. And I have done all of this week. It's an addictive project. It's crazy addictive, which is why I'm calling it Addicted to You. Because I can't stop staring at the yarn, and I can't stop knitting it. I love it. This has been traveling with me. I've been knitting it in the car, on the way to work, and on my lunch breaks. And I'm just loving it. I'm loving it. So, it needs a new progress keeper so that I can see what I do this week. I should be able to finish it. Should be able to finish it. Doesn't mean I will, but I should be able to. Another gorgeous progress keeper by Donna at Knitting with Attitude, and I'll have her link up for you. And let's put that right in right now before I forget. Just loop it around a stitch. And there we go. Ready to show off next week. And the yarns that I'm using, again, I'm so addicted to her. You'd think I'd use my own yarn, right? No. Shannon Shaw, again, Supernatural yarns. These are her yarns. The colors, I think they're just gorgeous together. They hold up beautifully together. The yarns are, let me get them out for you. Spiderwort on her Kelpie sock, which is 100% superwash merino, 2-ply, 490 yards over 100 grams. And Glad Rags Wizard Wear on her Zombie BFL sock. That one is the one with the noops on it. 2-ply, 438 yards over 100 grams. Gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. Be sure to check out her site. Yes, the yardage is different. I'm going to go as far as I can with the lighter yardage one. And I'll have left over for my blanket. So I have memories in my memory blanket. And we're just going to go with that. As soon as I have this one done, there's fluff floating around. As soon as I have this one done, I'm going to write it right up real quick, snap a photo of it, and I'll get this out to my test knitters as well. Which leads me to my test knitters. I love you guys. You are the most patient people alive. At least I think you have. You haven't commented with angry comments about where are the hat patterns. So where are the hat patterns? The hat patterns are done teching. They are ready to go over to you. They are ready to be knit. However, I need to get one more photo. I need to get a photo, any photo, even a quick photo, just so that you can see the end product and get that slapped up on Dumbledore's Army for you so that I can get both patterns out to you. I do want to deliver both patterns at the same time so that you can choose to do whichever one you want. Theoretically, I may be able to catch my husband and get grease off of his hands. He's playing in the garage right now, and thrust the camera into his hand and throw the hat over my own head and say cheese, and then do a quick edit and get that on the pattern for you. That's my goal. I'm hoping maybe this afternoon. If not, it may not be until next weekend. Things are busy here. I'm sad that this is being held up by a photo, but I don't want to send it without one. I know that it is so useful to have some kind of visual as to the end product so that you know what you're doing. So thank you for your patience. It's coming, I promise, and we'll get that going. Thank you. Okay, so, whoop, I'm dropping stuff, excuse me. Get everything back up here on my prep table for me. So that's what I've been knitting. Stitch. Stitch was working on a project. Let's check in with him and see how he's doing. Stitch! Hey Stitch, how are you doing? Have you been knitting this week? Why not? Are you kidding? It's not that hot. Okay, I think a sheep is allowed to tell me when it's too hot to knit. Will you be knitting this week? Alright, we'll go with that for now. Go get some sun. I received mail this week. My husband laughed so hard. We get home from work, mailbox is at the end of the drive. He gets out of the car, he says, I'll get the mail, and he hoofs it up to the end of the driveway. I grab my handbag and my lunch bag and my jacket and everything else, and I go into the house. I hear my husband walking back down the driveway going, what is, oh, ha 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 ha. And he's laughing, and I'm like, the heck have you got? He comes in the house with the mail and just holds it up for me. That's right, mail addressed to the Chief Monkey at Die Monkey Yarns. I love this. I love a sense of humor. I love real mail. And when I flipped it over and I realized who it was from, it wasn't a shock. I thought that was hysterical. Carolyn, I love you. Thank you. I love somebody who appreciates real mail. And I'm opening it. I haven't opened it yet. I know what it is, but I don't know what it is. I've seen what it is, but I haven't seen it in person. So I'm really excited to see what Carolyn has sent me. Oh, and it's fabulous. Carolyn, I love you even more. So Carolyn is from Chain 344 podcast. I talk about it all the time to you guys. She has sent me a couple of stitch markers. Look at this. I have on their business card a little dragonfly. I love dragonflies. We get a lot of them here. And I have this adorable little heart that says made with love. And a little note from her telling me that I am super mega awesome. Thank you. And this is the thing. This is the best. Carolyn, this is fabulous. Okay, so what have I got? Carolyn is making these adorable little stump covers. They're not. It is a stretchy fabric that I can put my skein cakes into to protect them when I'm working on them. This cake is huge. I'm not going to be able to get it in this one. Oh, no, I will. It stretches lovely. Look at this. You drop your yarn right down into this. It's got dinosaurs on it. I love it. And there's my cake. Isn't that brilliant? It's not going to unwind from the outside when I'm using it from the inside. It is locked in and secure. I can turn the little cuff down and I have my beautiful dinosaurs. That is the bomb. That is a great product. And Carolyn, if you're not selling these online yet, you need to. She's even got her little tag here. Last in line shop. Last in line shop, Etsy.com. I'm going to post that here. Pardon me. And I'm going to check online because I need 1 million of these. I need 1 million of these. Carolyn, this is brilliant. Now, there's a rumor. Okay, it's not a rumor. It's a full-blown announcement out on Instagram. I've seen her announcement. Carolyn and Kate from Chain 344 are in the process of opening their own local yarn shop. It will be called Unwound. It is in La Crosse, Wisconsin. If you are there, you need to get in line because it's going to be busy in that shop, I bet you. And I'd be willing to bet you'll be able to find these in the shop. New, it's coming. My understanding is their target open date is, girls, you're going to hate me, August 1. I think they said August 1st. I'm almost positive they said August 1st. But if you're not following them yet, if you're up in their area, if you need a new local yarn shop, look for Unwound on Instagram. And I'll post the Instagram name for you here, and certainly be watching for Chain 344. Their podcasts are a little intermittent right now. They're busy girls. They're trying to open a shop. And the podcasts are brilliant. I love them. I could watch them all day. I've rewatched them. I've reached out to them and told them that we'll be needing a tour of the store when they open, and I've been promised that is likely to happen. So get on and make sure you're following them and watch this process. They've already purchased a sofa for the shop, and I hosey one end of that. It is my spot. I'm Sheldon on that one. I have a spot, and if I ever get up into the shop and you're sitting in my spot, I'll tell you you're sitting in my spot and move you aside because I'm sitting on that sofa. Carolyn, you're awesome. Thank you. Kate, hello. And this is going into use almost immediately. Almost immediately. I'm going to finish this first. And thank you. I love you. So that was mail number 1. Mail number 2. It's been a mail week. I got internet mail. Yay! So I have permission. I have permission to read this, and I'm going to read it out to you and then give you my response. I got an email from Leanne. Hi, Leanne. And Leanne said, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your How to Eat an Elephant Blanket pattern with me. It is real potato chip knitting and will likely travel with me on vacation in a few weeks. If you're interested in doing the How to Eat an Elephant Blanket, I don't really have a pattern, but if you go to my Ravelry project page, I have all of my formula there exactly as to what I'm doing, so that you can get the same effect with the black frames around each color. And certainly if you're not a Ravelry person, just pop me an email and I'll email it out to you and make sure you have it, like I did for Leanne. Leanne writes, I have a couple of questions. I can't remember if you ever talked about the different acid dye brands and how they compare in your opinion. If you have, would you mind pointing me to the right podcast? I don't think I have. If not, would you mind sharing your opinion on the different brands of acid dyes? I'm looking to get into acid dyeing and I'm starting the research stage so I can invest wisely. Get 2 pages. Secondly, do you sell mini skeins? As I've started my own How to Eat an Elephant Blanket, I've realized that I'm very set in my ways concerning yarn colors and that I'm woefully short on yarn. I tend to knit until yarn is gone. Good on you. I don't know how you do it. I always end up with leftovers, especially with socks. Probably because I don't like really tall socks, but neither here nor there. Would you consider putting together a random grab bag of minis if it's not too labor intensive? Give me 1 second. I want to go grab a couple jars of the dye so I can show you exactly what I'm using. Okay, so what do I use for my acid dyes? I use Jacquard brand acid dyes. There's one of their little bottles of it. This one is, does it put the weight on the little jar? This is a half ounce. And it's a powdered dye. Notice I've got my lid on solid and tight. These are acid dyes, and they do contain a lot of chemicals. You don't want to breathe the dust, so make sure you have a dye mask on whenever you are dyeing. In my demonstrations, you always see I've got that big stupid thing on my face. There's a reason. The other brand that I use is Dharma Acid Dyes, and they're by Dharma Trading Company, and I'll have the link up here for you. These are both available through Dharma. This one is a 2 ounce jar. This half ounce jar and this 2 ounce jar are roughly the same price. Jacquard is a great name. They have lovely dyes. Like any acid dye powder, it's going to vary from batch to batch. So if you have a big project that you're going to do, and I'm talking 30 pounds of dyeing, and you're going to specifically use one color, buy the bigger size. They do make these in larger sizes. If you're just hobby dyeing or you're doing small production dye like myself, a small jar of this will last you quite a while. I think in the entire time that I have been dyeing, I've bought this may be my 3rd jar ever. I'm not big production as a rule, but at the same time, you see what goes into my shop, you see how much dyeing I do. You can get a lot out of one of these. This economically is so much more because it's the same price, and it is, let's see, half to 2 is what? 4 times the amount? Same price, you're doing much better financially here. The product is comparable. I have never tried to try one color against another color to see the variance. They're going to vary anyway. They vary from jar to jar in each brand name. So they're not going to be exact copies of each other. They have dye lots, same as you have dye lots. It's a mix of different things. If you're trying to be really hyper economic about dyeing yarn, if you're trying to get into dyeing yarn and you want to save as much money as possible but have as big a variety as possible, you're going to want to purchase the primary colors. The primary colors, of course, being yellow, blue, magenta, and black. And from those 4 jars, you can make every color in the rainbow. Like I responded to Leanne, I intermix between the 2 brands without any problem. I will cross-mix stuff all the time. It's just a different jar as far as I'm concerned. I don't see any chemical issue going on there. I don't see any legal issues. Nobody's knocked on my door and gone, you can't mix Jacquard with Dharma. I don't hesitate. I really just do whatever I feel like I want to do. And if I like a shade from one company and a shade from another company, I'll blend them and see what happens. Sometimes they interact and you get a totally different color that you didn't expect. Sometimes they just bounce off each other and they're gorgeous. You never know what you're going to get. It really is magic. I honestly don't have a preference between the 2. Certainly I like saving money. And the Jacquard, like I said, is slightly more expensive. But I don't have a preference. Frankly, over the past 3-4 years that I've been dyeing yarn too professionally, I've collected about every color in both companies. You can do the primary thing where you only buy 4 jars and you can mix every color in the rainbow. I don't. I never have. I've recently purchased the primary colors. I don't know why I never had before. And I think I'm going to kind of do a study on doing the mixing myself and seeing what comes out of it. what comes out of it. I'm lazy, frankly I'm lazy, and I'm always dissuaded by, ooh, pretty! And I look at their color charts with all their pre-mixed colors and I go, I like that one, and that one, and that one. It's like going to a candy store. And I actually will mix the colors. I use non-primaries and I blend them together all the time. If I want it to be richer, I use a higher concentration. If I want it to be deeper, I will use a darker tone and tone it or angle it. If I want it to have more of a blue underbase, I'll throw in a navy. If I want it to have more of a brown underbase, I'll pull in more of an olive or a brown. If I just really want to darken it up, give it kind of a haze or a depth, I'll throw in some black. You know, you can never make them lighter. So lighter is less concentrated, of course, but once you get that color down, you're not going to make it lighter. You're not going to get it closer to white, but you can always go darker, deeper, richer, more layered. Glazing, of course, throws on more layers. It's all there. Play with it, have fun. So space saving, economic wise, you can get away with the 4 and have a great time. If you're like me and you just want to enjoy all the colors, pick out a few that you like and build from there. Dharma's primaries are listed on the site. When you go to Dharma Trading Company's website, they have this huge list with all the color samples, and you can just go down through and go, one of these, one of these, one of these, one of these. Dangerous website, but useful website because you can do it all on one page at one time. But it does mark them as to which ones are primaries and which are not. So yes, do I dye minis? Absolutely. I have exactly 1 set of minis left in my shop since the sale, but I do have plans to dye more minis in the near future. Not this weekend. The idea of turning on a pot of boiling hot water, wool, and vinegar, it's hot. It's hot. I'm not going to do it. Not this weekend. Maybe next weekend. I'm hoping that my husband will get our swamp cooler turned on, at which point it'll be 20 degrees cooler in my house, and that would be nice. So yes, there are minis coming. There are minis coming. And what I generally do when I sell the minis, my Etsy shop is a little funky. The shipping system that Etsy uses is a little bit complicated in that you have a choice between setting a shipping rate per item or letting the system calculate shipping for you. I have found that it's cheaper overall for you if I set it to calculate shipping based on weight and your distance. What it doesn't do is if you add multiple items to the cart, it doesn't go, well, this is 4 ounces and this is 4 ounces and this is 4 ounces, so we should only charge her 12 ounces shipping. Instead it goes, you've purchased 4 things that are going to ship at 4 ounces each, and it starts from that point. I'm struggling with that. I'm sure you're struggling with that. I don't like how it adds up, but at the same time, I do need to charge something for shipping. What I do, if you've ordered multiple items from me, you've noticed this, is I either refund you down to what your shipping should be, or I upgrade you and I get that yarn out to you even faster. Certainly, if you want the best price ever, contact me and let's set it up so that it's a custom order, and then I do one shipping rate for you specific to the weight of your product. So you can contact me via the messaging system on Etsy and go, Jessie, I'd really like to have this, this, and this. Can you set me up on a custom? And I will pull those 3 together, create a custom order for you, and get that out to you at a discounted shipping rate. So, back to the minis. Why was I talking about shipping? I generally do a grab bag or a collection of minis whenever I do sell my minis. It is generally a coordinated group, but sometimes I do grabs as well that have just crazy colors in them. But I generally sell them in a lot that's closer to 1 full skein's weight or a skein and a half, so that you're getting 6, 8, 10 skeins all at once. rather than trying to buy one little skein, one little skein, one little skein, one little skein, and paying twice their sale price in shipping alone. I think that's ridiculous. Hopefully, there's a lot of changes happening over at Etsy right now. Hopefully they're going to look a little bit at how their shipping system works and kind of refine that. Hopefully. But so that's that. Leanne, I hope I answered your question. Acid dyes, commercial acid dyes, either or. I don't have a preference. I love them both. I use them both, intermingle, interchange, and I have a great time doing it. I don't generally use food coloring. I've done it. I like it. I find it a little bit limiting. I don't generally use Kool-Aid. Pound for pound Kool-Aid is expensive, especially against the cost of these. And again, limiting. They don't have true purples. They don't have something that you can use to make it darker, like a black. Their purples come out weird. They come out pink or green, interestingly enough. They certainly can be used interchangeably. You could start with, if you have a favorite color Kool-Aid, if you think that their orange Kool-Aid is the bomb orange, use it. And if you're highlighting and mixing, you may want to use orange Kool-Aid and then some scarlet from one of the others and get a beautiful blood orange. Do whatever tickles you. The food coloring ones, I've tried the little droppers. They make a big mess. They stain far worse than these stain. Pound for pound, again, they're more expensive. And you can sit there and you can mix the colors, but dropsy makes me insane. I like using my measuring spoons and just measuring out the dry measure. But I've never actually tried to blend them. I've never tried to use like the Kool-Aid powder and an acid dye together. They'd work. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't work. Sadly, Kool-Aid is that chemical that I question its edibility now that I'm thinking about using it with these cancer-causing buggers. But I have over-dyed Kool-Aid dyed yarn, and I've over-dyed food coloring dyed yarns with acid dyes and not had any problem. Not had any problem at all. So, did I answer it? I guess I answered it. My preference is use whatever you like and have fun doing it. And yes, there are minis coming, and yes, I will make sure that there are some grab bags that are a variety rather than just straight collections. The collections are generally overlapping, intermingled colors that work together. But if you're doing a memory blanket, you might like the wild, so we'll go with wild. And I think I got everything together there. So, moving on. Last week I talked to you about improvising a triangular shawl, and I said that I was going to try and get a video together for you on how to do that. I have my tools assembled here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the process first, and then we're going to pull the camera in tight, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So let me clean up real quick. Okay, so you've got a couple of yarns that you love, and you'd like to make a giant triangular shawl. You've been on Ravelry and you're just not finding anything that's doing it for you. The colors are either too complex, they want you to change colors every couple of rows, or it's just not as casual as you were expecting, or who knows. You're just not finding what you want. Not a problem. You can improvise a design yourself, and it's not hard. There's a couple quick rules in order to make a giant triangular shawl, and we're talking about a 45-degree shawl here, just a regular triangle. The rules are foundational rules, and it's just so that you get the shape that you need. But outside of that, you can use any yarn, any needle, for as long as you want, as many colors as you want, and have a great time doing it and get the end product that you want without having to go and buy a pattern. Let's look at what we can do. So I've got some tools here. They're basic tools. I have some double pointed needles, just 2, and that's for the cast on and until I've got enough to work with. And I have a big circular needle here. Why is it big? Because your shawl is going to get big and you're going to have a lot of stitches on there. Honestly, the bigger the better, bigger being length, so that it's comfortable to work with. If everything's bunched up on a straight needle, you end up with heavy on one side and then heavy on the other, and you turn your work and you're back to heavy on one side and heavy on the other. And that can be really fatiguing on your shoulders, your hands, your eyes, your body, everything. Not worth it. Get a giant circular needle. My double points and my circular are the same size. Generally when you're knitting a shawl, you can use any yarn you want, but you want to select a needle that's 1 to 2 sizes bigger than the recommended needle size. Why? We want some drape. We don't want cardboard that we're trying to bend around our necks and shoulders. We want something soft, squishy, luxurious that drapes and wraps around our shoulders and keeps us warm. 1 to 2 needle sizes bigger is the right answer to get that drape. But certainly, do a small swatch. It doesn't have to be anything big. And just look at the fabric that you're creating. Is it soft enough? Is it squishy enough? Is it too holey? Is it too open? Or you're going to get little fingers stuck in it? Or is it exactly what you're looking for? Play. This is for fun. This isn't for work. This is for fun. Enjoy what you're doing. Pick a couple yarns. Maybe you already have a couple yarns that you saw in the store and they just spoke to you and you thought, oh, those are beautiful together. I'll find something that I can do with them that I like. Well, I did that. I found, whoo, there goes my needle. I found 2 skeins of yarn that I thought were beautiful. They've been caked for a long time. This is Manos del Uruguay. Both of them are perfect. And it is, let's see, do I even have a content tag on here? It looks like just pure wool. And they're big, they're thick. This is, I dare say, this is Aran or bulky. You can use any yarn you want to make a shawl. You can use cobweb weight, which is tiny, thin, crazy thin, I can barely see it, thread. Or you can use super bulky if you want. It's all about finding the drape that you want, the colors that you want, the content that you want, and having fun. I bought these 2 skeins of yarn 4 years ago, maybe 5. I've had them in my collection forever and I've never known quite what to do with them. They're beautiful together. I'm going to make a shawl out of them and I'm just going to improvise the shawl. I'm going to change colors whenever I feel like changing colors. I'm going to garter stitch if I feel like garter stitching. I'm going to stockinette if I feel like stockinette. I'm going to throw in some lace if I feel like throwing in some lace. I have books and books and books. As a knitter, I'm sure if you don't have stitch books, you have a pattern, you have a magazine somewhere that might have a stitch in it that you like. Borrow it, insert it, do whatever you want. It's your playground. But we need to know the rules. So to do a shawl, a triangular shawl, there's a great cast on that you can use to create and set up the entire format. That cast on is called a garter tab cast on. It's short, it's easy, it's fun once you figure it out, but the first time you do it, you're going to wonder what kind of dark magic it is because it's not going to make any sense to you. Let me show you how it goes. I'm going to turn the camera around and I'm going to aim down at my hand so that you can see me actually doing this. Okay, so I have 2 double-pointed needles here. They are the same size as my giant circular needles. You want to use the same size, and I've used my handy-dandy needle gauge to figure out that they're the same size. Now you're looking at these and you're going, where did you get those? I didn't. I made them. You can take your handy-dandy needle gauge into any craft store and go to the dowel department and find the size that matches a needle that you need, which I did. And I took a hacksaw to it and I cut it into equal lengths, as you see. I needed some 9 double points. I couldn't find any 9 double points, so I did this. Hacked it up, went in, and then sanded it down really well, and took a pencil sharpener to it. That's it. That's all. Suddenly you've got double pointed needles. Alright, so here's my yarn, and here's my double pointed needles, and I'm going to cast on 3 stitches, where this shawl is going to have a 3-stitch edge all along the neckline. And I'm just doing a simple knitted cast on here. 1, 2, and 3. Just like that. There are my 3 stitches. Now I'm going to knit in garter 6 rows. So there's my 6. So what you see here is this little tab of garter stitch knitting. You should see 1, 2, 3 ridges here and your cast on edge. We're going to utilize those ridges and we're going to pick up in the ends of them. So set down your needle, keep these 3 here, you're at the end of your row, go into the first one, pick up 1 stitch. Go into the second ridge, just here on the edge. See if I can get it. Sorry, I'm reaching way out so that I can be on camera here. Get in there. There we go. Pick up that second stitch. Into the third one. Pick up 3 stitches. Alright, so now we got this funny curly lump here on here. This is my cast on edge. I can see the 1, 2, 3 loops of my cast on edge. I'm going to pick up 3 more stitches in that. It's going to get a little tight. It'll be okay. 1, 2, oh, come on, come around. 3. Alright. So now you have 9 stitches on the needles and you've got this curly lump right here. That's okay. This is the center back right here of the neck of your shawl. Right there, center back of the neck of your shawl. And this is going to be the 2 triangles that come down to make one giant triangle shaped like this. Looks like dark magic. It gets better. Your very first row here, you're going to knit 3. There's 1, 2, 3. You're going to need some stitch markers. Let me get some out. You're going to want 3 stitch markers. It's best if you have one that is a contrast color to mark the center of your work. And I'll explain why in a minute. You're going to insert 1 stitch marker here now. You're going to purl 1 stitch, purl 2 stitches, insert the center stitch marker. You're going to purl 1 more stitch. You're going to insert the last stitch marker, and you're going to knit the last 3. Okay, still a crazy lumpy bump right here, but now you've got stitch markers in there. Let's go figure out what they mean. We're now on your right side row. The first and last 3 stitches are always going to be your edge stitches that go along the neck edge. They're always going to be in garter. Everything else is up to you. But we need to have increases built into this process in order for this to keep growing and turn into the triangle you're aiming for. We're always going to knit the first 3 stitches. That is going to bring us to our first stitch marker, which we're going to slip. We're always going to work an increase here. I like the yarn over increase. It's easy and it puts in a decorative hole. Then you can do anything you want to that triangle stitch. There's your triangle stitch. In this case, I'm going to do a nice simple stockinette for the beginning of this. That brings me to my center stitch marker right here. Before the center stitch marker, I'm going to work an increase. I'm going to slip the marker that tells me that this stitch is the center of my whole triangle. I'm going to work my center stitch. I'm going to do an increase. You will always do an increase before and after your center stitch. That helps make the triangle. I'm going to work my triangle stitch. I'm back to a stitch marker that tells me that I'm at the edge. I'm going to work an increase here, slip my stitch marker, and knit the last 3 stitches. I'm always going to knit the last 3 stitches. They are my garter edge. You've completed your first right side row. Wrong side row is even easier. We're always going to knit the first 3 stitches. We're going to slip our marker. I'm doing a stockinette triangle, so I need to purl on the wrong side. I'm going to purl 3 stitches. Whoops, I dropped that one right off. Let's get back up there. I see that this stitch is right before that marker on the wrong side row. It is my center stitch. I'm also going to keep that in stockinette, so I'm going to purl that stitch. I'm going to slip my marker. I'm going to purl 3 stitches. I'm going to slip my marker, and I always knit the last 3 stitches. Again, I still have this crazy lumpy bumpy curl. It's making a triangle. Back to the right side row, and let's remember the rules. I have 3 stitches that are an edge stitch before I get to a stitch marker. I'm always going to knit my first 3 stitches. I'm going to slip my marker. I'm going to work an increase. I'm going to work across to the next stitch marker that tells me that I'm at the center stitch. I'm going to work an increase. I'm going to slip the marker. I'm going to work my center stitch. I'm going to work an increase. I'm then going to work across my triangle to the next stitch marker, slip the stitch marker. No, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. I'm going to work across to the next stitch marker. I'm going to do an increase. Then I'm going to move the marker and knit the last 3 stitches. So the short of it is, you always work the first 3 and the last 3 and knit. Anything between the stitch markers you work any way you want to, as long as you have an increase on either side of the triangles in between. Which means an increase after this stitch marker, an increase before this stitch marker, an increase after the center stitch, and an increase before this stitch marker. Let me work across this row and show you one more time. Knit 3, slip the stitch marker so I'm in the triangle, work an increase, work across my triangle, whoops, I'm at a stitch marker, I'm doing an increase, slipping the marker, working my center stitch, slipping the increasing, working across my triangle to the next stitch marker, working an increase, slipping my stitch marker, knitting across. So it still looks like a big crazy curved mess, right? I'm going to work one more wrong side row just to give it some length, and then I'm going to take it off the needles and show you the triangles developing. Wrong side row again. There's no increases on the wrong side row, so I knit the first 3. For this particular, I'm just going to purl all the way across to the last 3. I'm at the last 3, slipping the marker, I'm knitting the last 3. Still looks like a big curve, but now we're starting to get a lot of stitches on here. Want to see that triangle actually happening? I'm going to take those stitches out and show you. Drop those stitch markers. Here we have it. There is your top neck collar. Here is your center stitch working down, and there's a triangle forming right there and right there. Let me grab a piece of paper and diagram this out for you. So here's your neck edge, and we started with a small garter tab, and I'm going to represent the garter with the ridges here. Not an even stitch count. But here's your garter tab for the most part, and it goes infinitely in either direction until you're done. You have a center stitch that happens. You have a yarn over that's happening along this edge, a yarn over that's happening along this edge, and a yarn over that's happening on either side of the center stitch. As long as you follow that rule, that you always knit 3 stitches here, you always work a yarn over, you always work a yarn over your center stitch, a yarn over, and your 3 stitches here, you will make this triangle. And like I said, you can go infinitely as wide and as deep as you want for as long as you have yarn for. What you do in this space here is entirely up to you. You can knit stockinette, you can knit stripes in here, you can knit garter in here, you can do anything. You can put lace stitches in here if you want. You don't even have to make this side match this side. This side can be something totally different. However, what you need to be aware of is for each row you are working from here to here to here. Each row does this action and then back again. Wrong side, right side, just like this. So, if you start here with the deep purple, when you change, your stripe is going to follow this action back and forth. You can make any number of beautiful, beautiful designs using this technique. This is the basis for most triangle shawls. If 3 seems really thick to you, Do it with 2. Do it with 1. That's up to you. I happen to prefer the 3. It gives it a nice firm edge that I can pin into, that I can wrap around, that I can hang it from. But do what you want. Hopefully this has been a useful tutorial for you and you feel inspired to go cast something on. I know it is hot as heck here today, but I think I'm going to go cast this on and see what I come up with this. If you'd like to follow along with my journey, check out my Instagram. I'll be taking pictures of this as I go. And if you have questions, if I have completely confused you, please let me know. I will have in the show notes the basic instruction for the cast on to do this little tiny tab again. If I went too fast, if it was too confusing, I'll have it all typed out for you and tell you where those stitch markers go and what needs to happen in order to get this to happen that way. It's been wonderful talking to you again. I'm so glad that you joined me for another episode, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Hopefully it won't be so hot, and maybe I'll do a demo in the dye pots for you. Have a great week. I love you. Bye.